It's been a while since I made a video about the news in Turkey, and today, March 9th, I'm making the video about the news. And the news, some of them are curious, some of them are serious, they are related to foreigners and to some things which foreigners have to do, especially if they live outside of Turkey. If you have a property in Turkey, and I often talk about real estate. I know quite a bit about real estate. Now real estate is more or less quiet. Yet, if you have a property, you have certain things to do. If you have a property and you rent it out, you have to start paying taxes immediately because this is a tax season in Turkey also. And right now, the whole regulation around buying property, about signing the agreement with people who will rent your property and paying taxes and paying rent, the whole things have changed. It used to be old-fashioned, old world where the money is passing from one hand to another. And I think what happened is that the government did not really get taxes on that, and people were very happy because they did not have to pay taxes. Now the regulation has changed quite a bit. First of all, you have to have agreement, you have to have signed agreement from the people who are in the building where you own the property that they have no objections to you renting it. That's one thing. And then you have to go through the process of establishing that property of yours as a rental property. After that, you have to find people who will rent your flat. And finding people who will rent your flat is probably not very difficult if you want to be open to anyone. Many people prefer to rent to foreigners for a couple of reasons. One is that foreigners are not forever and they will have to move. Besides that, if you don't extend the rental agreement next year, they will have to move anyway because they have to show this agreement when they're getting their kimlik, their residency. So people prefer to rent to foreigners. If you rent it to Turkish citizens, there may be some difficulties because the way the law written right now, and I spoke about it multiple times, there are very few things which you can do to move them out, to evict them if they stay in your apartment, even if they don't pay. It may be very difficult. Nevertheless, continuing with that, you have to go to Edivlet, you have to register with Edivlet, and you have to rent the property out, or you can do it through some other agent. That will be a different story, it will be a different way of doing that, but you can rent them out. In general, from what I see right now, you can get anywhere from 5 to 10% on your rental property, minus taxes which you have to pay now. The other new regulation for real estate in Turkey is that you have to receive payments from people through e-devlet, through some kind of a form of electronic payment. The old-fashioned way may be penalized, and that is another way to control the money flow. The other thing which comes with that, it used to be easy to pay with cash because 200 lira, which is the highest denomination of Turkish bills, it was big enough. Now 200 Turkish lira is really not much. I'm paying for my haircut 400 Turkish lira, which is 200 lira bills plus tip. And you can buy coffee depending on what place you go, but if you go to the beach in Konyaaltı and you go to one of those places, you may be paying 150 lira for the cup of coffee, or even more for some specialty coffee. That's what it is. Paying with bills, paying with currency, paying with money is becoming quite a bit difficult. It's much easier to pay it electronically. Of course, if you go to the market, to the farmer's market, buying things, you still have to carry a bunch of cash on you and you still have to exchange, but it's ridiculous, honestly. When I first came to Turkey, and it was over 4 years ago, my haircut was 35 lira. And then it went up to 40 lira, and now it's 400 lira. That's just how it is. Let's talk about the news which will be interesting to the man. And the reason I'm saying to the man, because it is about divorce. Divorcing in Turkey is a very expensive affair if you have to do this. And men was suffering. I know lots of men in Turkey, they are afraid to divorce. And many of them have lovers besides their wives, from what I've heard. I don't know many of them personally, but that's what I heard. The new law says that there is no longer such thing as a lifetime spouse support after divorce. You can write in the comments whether it's good or bad, what your opinion is, but that's how it is. And the way it works, if you lived in a family, in a marriage for 3 years, the maximum spouse support you can give is 5 years, and etc. So there are some 3 to 10 years, and so on and so forth. The only way it may happen that man will have to provide the lifetime spouse support if there are some special, very strictly defined cases such as disability, etc. So men are becoming a little bit more free in Turkey. Who knew? I did not know that, but that's what it is. And actually quite a few people saying that is a move to the positive direction, because women have been fighting for their rights for a very long time, and men's rights were somewhat either denied or squished. And I think it's happening right now all around the world that these kind of laws which were protecting women in some way, I think they are becoming redefined, they're becoming under question, they're debated, and they're becoming more fair. I think it's more fair because if woman can work, she can work. Obviously, there are some other situations where you have a bunch of children, etc., etc. But if you can work, you should work. And it's been a business for some women. They would marry the very wealthy gentleman, and then after a while they divorce and they get a bunch of money or life support. I think it's not fair. News of curiosity. I think you're gonna love this particular one. Recently, Supreme Court of Republic of Turkey made a decision that access to the beaches in the entire nation is free for everyone, because beaches are owned by nation. They're not owned by beach clubs. And that is something interesting. If you have not been to Konyaaltı in a couple of years, you may come and take a look. What I observed last summer, there are beach clubs. I call them beach clubs because that's what they called in Caribbean and South America. Here it's just a cafe with a bunch of lounge chairs on the beach. And they buy so many lounge chairs, which are mostly vacant throughout the entire season, that they push the rest of the people in other locations where they can sit or lay, whatever that is. Personally, I've been to other beach clubs and I like those beach clubs. If you go there, it is usually you pay something like $30 or €30 for the entire day, and that is used as a credit to buy some food in the beach club. Here in Turkey, it's not working that way. You basically buy a lounge chair and then you can buy a few other things. Lounge chair is not a bad idea because what we have in Konyaaltı is pebble stone, and sometimes it's pretty nice, sometimes it may be not as nice. And beach clubs, they do clean, but here is the case which happened in Izmir. Over there, very zealous employees denied access to the beach to the people, and they probably had the lounge chairs. I'm just reading it from the news, so I don't know all the details. The case went to Supreme Court. Probably through all the other courts, it finally went to Supreme Court. And what happened there is now some of the very zealous employees will have to go to jail for from 1 to 8 months for doing so. And that is publicized all over the places. If you're a tourist, if you come to Turkey, if you live in Turkey, now you know your rights. You can access the beach anywhere. Nobody owns the beach. Nobody can nationalize the beach or privatize the beach. It's all national property. And Turkey is continuing to manage and control inflation. The recent decision was to reduce the base rate in the Republic of Turkey to 42.5%. That is what banks, that's what some people will be paying for borrowing the money. which is welcomed by people who need to borrow or by companies which we need to borrow. Personally, from my point of view, going to the farmers market, going to the stores, I still see that prices are going up. I see it by drinking coffee, and I think that there is a lot of room for improvement. Probably one of the reasons the government doesn't print new, larger bills that they really want to push everybody to pay electronically. If you have to pay like 10,000, 20,000 Turkish lira for something which you're buying, it's carrying a bunch of cash. It's like a pile of money, a suitcase. And so the inflation is under control. It's getting managed. That's according to the central bank. It's according to politicians. Maybe it is. I don't know. That's what they say. But beggars still accept cash. And recently there was one man who pretended to be a beggar. One man was arrested. And the police got 164,000 Turkish lira on him. Obviously, that money was confiscated. There is a criminal case right now with that. But I don't know how it works. Every time I see the market, in pretty much anywhere, you see some beggars. And the interesting thing is, I think they're professional because I go to different markets and I see the same beggars. And what happens in Turkey? You have farmers market mostly, but it's not only exclusive to farmers products. It's also clothes and shoes, pretty much anything. It's just basically a market, a bazaar. And every time I go to market, often I see the same beggars sitting strategically in different places. They like migrate. They're like part of the market. They're like vendors. And I think they're actually getting quite a bit of cash. Some of them with children, some of them are old men, some of them have open wounds which trying to provoke emotion in people, and people give them cash. But just be reminded, if you're in Turkey and you see the beggars, maybe it's for real, maybe it's not. Some people actually walk in the street and they are selling little things, which is, that's the way to do it. It's actually a Muslim way of doing that. It's not, from what I've heard, I don't know the history, but the beggar's not supposed to just beg. They're supposed to sell something. That could be just a pen, it could be a napkin, whatever that is. But money exchange, and you get something little for that. Nobody really. Sometimes people need it, sometimes people don't, but that's what it is. But there are also beggars which sell nothing. They just sit and beg and beg and beg. And that's quite interesting. If you have account in Turkey, bank account, and if you have not used it since 2014, it is likely that it may be closed and money can be confiscated. So check it out. If you do it, because there are some people who lived in Turkey for a very long time, people who come and go and they have account. And if you have account like that, I think it's a normal practice for most of the banks. Like if you go to the Western banks, there are some policies where if the bank account is dormant, after a certain period, they have to turn money to the state. I think Turkey is actually establishing the same thing. Maybe it's a catch-up, maybe it's a new thing. Nevertheless, that is something which you have to be aware. That's why I'm sharing it with you, and that's just how it is. Turkiye is increasing fines for violation of the road laws, of driving laws. And some of the things we already know pretty clearly, like you don't drink and drive, and you don't run on a red light. But one of the things which really bothered me, and it's bothering me still, I don't think it's strictly enforced. I think people are trying to enforce it stricter, but I don't think it's quite enforced strictly. That is speaking on the phone or texting. And I see this all the time when I drive around streets. I see people like slowing down and start texting or looking. It's just not right, but the reason I'm telling you that, beware. Now we have car sharing in Turkey and Antalya. You can actually go download the app and you will be able to drive it. And if you drive it, just be sure that most likely you come from a country where they have a different driving ethics. When you come to Turkey, beware, because people sometimes turn from the left lane to the right, from the right lane to the left, and they actually either talk on mobile or they text, and I see this all the time. What is even more strange, that people who do the delivery, they actually drive their scooters and text. To me, I don't know how a person can do this, because I think it's dangerous enough just to drive a scooter. But driving the scooter and texting, that is just really pushing the envelope.